It's official. The incumbent governor of Adamawa State, Ahmadu Fintiri, has been declared winner of the state's governorship election. He polled over 430,000 votes to defeat the APC's Aishatu Binani. The election was mired in controversy, with a resident electoral commissioner illegally and falsely declaring the APC candidate winner before a collation had finished. In his acceptance speech, Fintiri said the Electoral Commissioner's actions fell below expectation, but thanked the people of Adamawa for voting for continuity.
So, Adamawa State, today we are at a point where history is made. It is made because of you. It is made because you reaffirm your willingness to support the good works we have started in Adamawa State. It is made because we have reached a consensus that Adamawa State must work. It is made because we have collectively agreed that we desire a better Adamawa State that is lifted from the depths of despair to the great heights of hope. With the belief that, well, each of us will pursue our own individual dreams. We are an Adamawa family. And out of this family, each of us is at liberty to aspire to any height without any human hindrance. Welcome to the Adamawa State of our dreams. Here we decide the fate of our governance by ourselves. Fellow citizens, what we also was a flagrant display of desperation, deliberate impunity and crass opportunism, which is surrounded by a whole web of uncertainty. In the mix of all this, as your leader, I remain calm and appeal for same from you. I call for appreciatively hearken to. Once again, you have brought out our stoic and Spartan spirit as Adamawa people to bear. For this, I can't thank you enough. Thank you and thank you again.
Sumner Sambo, Arise Director of News, joining us to give us his mind, his thoughts on all of the drama that's played out. Why do we continue to use that word drama? Let's just look for another word. Sumner, good to see you. So what do you make of, an eventual winner has emerged in the person of the incumbent governor of Adamawa State? You want to paint a picture of what, would have been if it had actually gone the other way? Yeah,
what would have turned out to be a bad situation with ripple effects across the country has been, averted. Like I had said, the most important person in that scenario was actually the state collation officer. So wherever he was, the most important thing to have done is what has been done. Go bring him back and then declare the results. Because even the INEC chairman couldn't have done anything. The resident electoral commissioner, of course, we know doesn't have those powers that he had earlier arrogated to himself. And then that thing has been done at the moment. Because Ngozi and Suleiman, what is not being said here is actually that there's an ethnic tension because of the composition of Adamawa State in that state. Right. So if you look at the ethnic composition of the state, you see that the Fulani is actually the majority of the state, and then you have the minority. And now the two political parties here, the PDP and APC, are also representing those groups. Now, the incumbent Ahmadu Fintiri happens to come from the minority, and then, of course, Aishatu Binani comes from the majority Hausa Fulani stock there. And so, apart from the configuration, there's also the religious angle to it. You have, what looks like the minority gaining some sort of support from both Muslims and Christians. And then, of course, you have the APC candidate seem to be, going through the same thing. but with more emphasis on the ethnic aspect of it. And you see how both politicians played maturely not to play up that religious aspect. At some point in time after the supplementary election, after the election was declared inconclusive, we saw some politicians trying to whip up those ethnic sentiments of majority and minority. But that did not eventually play very well. Now, there is, this group of people who are power holders in the states, people like Murtala Inyako, who used to be a former governor of the state and all of that. These people, one way or the other, eventually had to, lend their voices to ensure that the state did not implode. And that's why we sometimes, when you see us asking institutions of state to actually function the way they are supposed to, is to reduce this sort of tension. Because if that issue had not been resolved peacefully, this could have delved into an ethnic and then, a religious civil disturbance. And then it could have been very, very bad for everyone. But we must thank everyone who has contributed to this. And it's left for the governor-elect now, who's just been re-elected, to understand how to manage the relations within these, socio-political groups in the state. Because the tendency for it to have imploded into that, was, or the signs were already there for everyone. And so, as the governor comes in, he has to heal the wounds, try to see, even the APC candidate too. I mean, she had gone to court earlier in the day trying to, seek for several
I hate to cut you there. I'll come back to you because it's a nice place that you started healing and, of course, talking about playing down the ethnic and religious
the results are out, and we have to talk about the real issues.
And even though Ngozi was running away from it, it's still a drama. We'll come back to you, Sumner. Please, let's see what we can get more from Adamawa State. As the electoral body, INEC, says it will write the Inspector General of Police to investigate and prosecute the resident electoral commissioner for the state, Hudu Ari. INEC will also write the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, to brief President Buhari about Ari's actions.
Meanwhile, the Inspector General of Police, Usman Baba Kali, has ordered the withdrawal of the Commissioner of Police on election duty in Adamawa State, Mohammed Barde. The IGP also ordered the Commissioner of Police in charge of Gombe State to immediately proceed to Adamawa State for election security.
The IGP has given directive that the Commissioner of Police there for the election CP Bade should be pulled out of Adamawa State, and the Commissioner of Police in charge of Gombe State, CP Etim Okwa, to proceed to Adamawa immediately to go and supervise the election and provide necessary security to make sure that process is a success. So we are mindful of the fact that there is need for us to look into that case. And if you have any letter from INEC, we will work on that. We have not received any official letter from INEC, but if we receive today, we're going to act appropriately. But we are working, as I speak with you, we are working with INEC to see that matter is adequately investigated.
A court has fixed April 26 to entertain the ex parte application by APC governorship candidate Aishatu Dahiru Binani in the Adamawa supplementary governorship election. Binani is asking the court to determine whether INEC can take any further steps on the declared governorship election results made by its resident electoral commissioner Hudu Ari.
Our client's goldwind of the motion ex parte filed by the applicant.
To the camera.
So, because of that, we came to court today that we should be heard. However, the court, in their own wisdom, the court said, since we've not been served, that it's not going to hear us yet. However, the court has adjourned to 3 days' time for the applicant to address them on whether he has jurisdiction or not to hear the matter. Because we are party to the suit, and we have a right to be heard.
We are not here to argue election. We don't have anything election before the Supreme Court. What we are trying to do before the Supreme Court is for the court to make a pronouncement as to whether looking at Section 149 of the Electoral Act, which says whatever action taken by INEC can only be set aside by either election petition tribunal or a court of competent jurisdiction. So an INEC staff standing to make a declaration, whether legitimate or illegitimate, the right thing to do is to approach the tribunal.
All right, of course, Arise Director of News and Politics Editor Sumner Sambo is still very much with us here. Sumner, before all of this, in fact, during our discussion yesterday, we made a point that INEC may have dropped the ball. With this outcome today, would you say that INEC has finally saved herself? And how does all of this really reflect on the integrity of our electoral process?
The most important thing here that happened today is the swiftness of, going ahead with the collation. Because unless there was a declaration, everything would still have been fuzzy-wuzzy.
Right.
But we've seen a declaration here which has now created, which has now brought everything to an end. So those who are aggrieved can go to court and all of that, but INEC has discharged its constitutional responsibility. If it hadn't done that, then there would have been a lot of uncertainty. And that's why I said that Adamawa, it's a very, very critical state, that if we don't know how to manage, because of the diversity of tribes here and there, it's a very huge challenge. And over the years, if you see that, started right from a long period of time when the state was created. There's been this unhealthy rivalry in terms of, the ethnic composition of the state. Some people will tell you that all the other minority groups are more than the Hausa Fulanis, while the Hausa Fulanis will claim that they are more than, the other groups here and there. But you see that the people who have held political power in the state are majorly the dominant Hausa Fulanis. And that's why you see there's even a group that's called the Kauta Pulaku, which is made up of these Hausa Fulanis who have held powers both at the federal level and the state level. And you see them, they are the people who control the majority of the resources in the state. And this played out in this election. People wanting to tilt that to the extent that an incumbent governor, a state governor, in other states, when you see an incumbent governor going for re-election, it's almost like a smooth sail.
Walk in the
but
park.
Because of the ethno-religious dynamics of the political scenario here, everyone was hoping that INEC would just do the right thing so that it doesn't get to that tense moment. And with this declaration right now, it's left for INEC to ensure, just like we had said, that when they are going to states like this, they need to be very circumspect on the sort of people that they deploy to states like this, because any little thing could have led to a serious
let's come back to INEC, because let's come back to INEC, and without benefit of hindsight, it becomes almost impossible for you to know the character of a man that you have so appointed. But now INEC is trying so hard to see how it can redeem its image. I recall yesterday you had mentioned, talked about the statutory issues bordering on the appointments. Now speak to us on what INEC has said so far, because the meeting which the aviation strike did not allow it hold yesterday finally held, and INEC has said, well, IG, come to our aid, help us look into this man, and we're going to do a letter to the president. Speak to us more on how this is about. It's
outside their powers. There's nothing that can be done other than just stepping the resident electoral commissioner aside. Now, it's left for the appointing authority, which happens to be President Muhammadu Buhari, to decide if indeed he has committed enough offenses for him to write. Because even President Buhari can't just remove him now. He has to go back to the Senate that confirmed him. Statutorily, it's the National Assembly's job to impeach this resident electoral commissioner or not. Buhari is only at the point of trying to name the resident electoral commissioner that he has powers to change name also. But once you've done that and the Senate has confirmed, it has to go through the same process. You would have to write back to the National Assembly and say this person was appointed to discharge his responsibility, but he has not been doing that, just like it happens with Supreme Court judges. So it's now left for the Senate to now go through it, and then there'll be a voting as to whether he should be removed as resident electoral commissioner or not. And so the police too will go through its legal team and see if indeed this man, by the functions of his office and then what's contained in the Electoral Act, he has violated any law or not. If he has, then he will be charged to court. That's why INEC seems handicapped in this instance. And sometimes you will hear people arguing that the INEC chairman should just remove him, sack him, do all, without knowing that all these things are buffers. Right. Because once they go there, they are supposed to have a mind of their own to build institutions. But the good thing about this election, that we have seen the outcome resulting in the declaration of the incumbent governor, is that the APC itself knows that there are certain formats for declaration of results here and there which ought to have been followed but were not followed. But the opposition too, which is the opposition at the national level too, should be learning, because this same People's Democratic Party that is crying for justice now, if it were during the days of PDP, they will go ahead and make all sort of announcements of people who did not follow the proper procedures, and before you know it, there will be some challenges. That's why we say when political parties are in power, they should do the right thing, because they may be victims tomorrow. Absolutely. Now the entire nation stood and said, let the right thing be done. And the right thing was done. But if it were during the times of, those days when PDP was in power and looking very arrogant, I mean, they would just do all sorts of things, and you would have heard people saying that results were written and all of that.
If there's anything that's been learned for sure, no party will be arrogant.
Yes, even the government party has not seen that it doesn't have the capacity to touch any result.
Very quickly, of course, Binani approached the Federal High Court, claiming that INEC usurped the powers of the tribunal by declaring her return as null and void. Of course, the court refused to. The court will
definitely refuse, because they've been precedents, lots of precedents, where it is clearly stated no court in Nigeria has any power over any election after an election, except the election tribunals. Except the tribunals discharge their functions. That's when other courts can come in. But you are not going to the court, to the Federal High Court. What's the Federal High Court supposed to do when there's an election petitions tribunal already in place? The election is ongoing at the moment. The election has not been concluded. So what do you want a court to do? That's why I'm surprised sometimes some of these lawyers who take some of these things to court, you wonder why. What sort of relief was she expecting when INEC has not made a declaration, the election was ongoing? The Federal High Court over time, in previous elections, had made it very clear that as long as an election is ongoing, there is nothing you can do. You cannot stop an arm of government from performing its functions. That function must go on. The best you can do is to await the process to be over, and then you go to court.
Sumner, Sambo, we'd like to thank you for your time, as always.